What's up, Fish Tube? Bearded Bob once again. Another 10-gallon rack video here, continuing the updates. And as you can see, in this tank we've got a colony of Pygmy Corydoras, Corydoras pygmaeus. And right now I'm just I've been trying to condition them for the last month or two and get them ready for breeding. And I've been trying to get the breeding going, feeding them lots of live and frozen food. Also feeding just a staple diet just to keep up with all that stuff too. As you can see, they are just awesome in there. You can see I just fed some baby brine shrimp not too long ago, so they're combing through everything trying to find some and doing a good job picking them off. Now these guys I got from local fish store. Well, I say local, but fish store is about 3 or 4 hours from my house, and they happened to have a bunch of these guys in stock when I went there, and it was just a random coincidence. I'd been wanting them for a while but could never find them locally, so picked them up. I picked up a colony of 8 of them when I was there. They were like, I don't know, they're 4 for however much money or whatever when I picked them up, and I'm just kind of hoping to get them breeding in these tanks. So these would be the first Corydoras that I've bred. And you know, originally when I first got them, it seemed like they were doing some breeding behaviors after I stuck them in this tank, but I haven't seen any eggs or fry. I'm guessing the eggs would be pretty small. There might be some in there, because today I just did a water change. I've been leaving it about 3/4 full, just so the water from this lift tube kind of pours into the tank to get them to get that sound going. I've heard that's a trigger sometimes for Corys to spawn. So I left it low, and then when I did the water change in here, I actually used water from my Caridina tank that's set up there. There's no Caridinas in it yet, but the parameters are you know, obviously set up perfectly for Caridina shrimp. It's winter time, I can't get any in, and it's Akadama substrate, so I've been waiting the 2 to 3 months to make sure the substrate is good and seasoned before I put anything in there. And it's been doing good, but the water from there I pour into this tank to fill it back up, and hoping to get the breeding going. You can see all the baby brine shrimp kind of floating around there in the breeze. In this tank I just kind of threw as many plants as I possibly could find, some small plants, and behind this leaf there is a nice piece of Bucephalandra, and that's right now the only piece of boost that I have. I should actually move that leaf so it doesn't shade out that plant too much. I've got some weeping moss in there tied to a rock. I believe there's some Java fern in here, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm wrong. Lots of crypts. I had lots of little small crypts, so I kind of planted them everywhere in here. Some bacopa, just some floating hornwort and water wisteria in here as well. As you can see, the date here of when I put them in this tank, 1 January 2020. I think it was middle of the month, if I'm not mistaken. But they've been doing good. I still have all 8. Didn't lose a single one, transferring them, you know, 3.5 hours north from where they came from. I drip acclimated them for about 2, maybe 3 hours, somewhere in there. I dumped the water a bunch of times, just trying to get them slowly acclimated to my harder, higher pH water than what they were in at the pet store. And there's just a bunch of ram's horn snails in here. They don't really take over this tank as much. These Corys seem to get most of the food that I dump in there, so that's good. But I really enjoy watching them. They're one of the few fish that I can just sit here for hours and just watch. And I usually do it right after a water change to see if I am getting any breeding going on in there. Like I said, I haven't seen any eggs yet, and I haven't seen any little babies swimming around, but hopefully that'll change here. As like I said, I just did the water change today, so. And there could be some on the, oh, there's some hair algae growing on that matin filter already. I gotta clean that stuff off. Oh yeah, there's some growing off the hornwort and stuff here too. But these guys I keep at about, as you can see, they're about 76 to 78, somewhere in there. And then when I do the water change, the water from up there is 72 to 74 degrees. And I usually unplug the heater, you know, a couple hours before I do the water change down to this tank to cool that water off a little bit more. And hopefully, eventually, these might be too young to spawn just yet. And that's kind of what I'm thinking, because everything else should be, you know, the parameters should be good for them to start breeding. So we'll just wait and see. I'll keep doing what I'm doing. I'm not going to change anything up yet, and just hoping. Well, that's pretty much it for this tank. So this was the Pygmy corridors. There's no shrimp in here, no other fish right now, just some snails, and hopefully get an update here soon if I ever get some breeding behavior going on. But I appreciate the watch. Make sure you hit that like button on the way out, and hit the subscription button if you would please do so. I'd appreciate that a lot. And we'll see you on the next one. Peace.